Hey guitar friends, welcome to All About Guitar Academy. You know you've heard it said that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I'm living proof of that being a false statement. I'm 60 plus, and when I learned how to play power chords, I was able to get rid of all those open basic chords when I want to rock on guitar and not have to worry about buzzing, stretching my fingers across the fretboard and learning bar chords and all of that. Today we're going to look at power chords, another way that you can rock on guitar well into your 60s and beyond. So stick around, grab your guitar. I'll be in standard E tuning. We're going to jump right into the guitar lesson right after this. Hey guitar friends, before we start on this lesson, if you want to get on the fast track to learning guitar, playing rock guitar, blues guitar, all of the above, I've got 90 plus lessons for you jam-packed into my fast track guitar course. You can find it in the description down below. I put a link in there for you. Come see me, get the fast track guitar course, and get on the fast track to rock guitar. I'll see you there. So why power chords? Well, I'll give you 3 really good reasons. There's no finger yoga. Yeah, what I mean is you don't have to play bar chords with all your fingers. You don't have to go up and down the fretboard changing chord shapes. You can pretty much stick with the same chord shape, and that is great for those of us that have finger injuries or arthritis or painful joints in our fingers. Power chords make it much easier for folks like us that have those kind of issues to play the guitar. And the good news is there's no major or minor chords with power chords. They're neither. And they also sound clean, clear, and powerful. So let's jump right into the very first power chord I'm going to teach you today. All right, this first power chord is probably my most favorite power chord because it's used so often, and I like to call it the deep growl. It sounds like... That's what we call an E5, and the reason it's called an E5, I'll tell you really quick, because most chords have a first, a third, and a fifth note in them. Well, power chords generally only have 2 of the notes that you need for a chord, and it's the first and the fifth note. I won't get into all of that in this lesson, but that's why we call it an E5. Instead of playing an E major, for example, we're just playing the E and the B note of the chord. All right, and you can add an extra note in there, but it's the same note. It's another E note, and that gives you a little bit more full power chord. And I'm going to put the chord chart up here so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So to make this E5, we only need 1 finger. That's right, 1 finger, our index finger. We put it right here on the B note of the A string, which is fret number 2 of string number 5, the A string. And we play our low E with that A string. That is as simple as that. That's an E5. Now, like I was saying, you can add an extra E note to give it a little more power, and that's going to be on fret number 2 of the D string. So it looks like this, and you can play both of those notes with the low E with 1 finger. It's easy as that. All right, now I will tell you, if you're having challenges with playing it with 1 finger, you can always use 2 fingers, and there's so many different ways you can do it. But start with the 1. All right, that's an E5. Let's look at the next one. All right, I think you recognize that riff, and that riff, it's an AC/DC riff. It starts with what we call an A5. All right, it looks like this. It's just like the E5. We're just moving our finger down towards the floor 1 string over and hitting the open A string and the D string, and we've got our index finger right here on fret number 2 of the D string. All right, and if you want to add a little more power to that chord, you can add an extra A note, which is on fret number 2 of the G string. All right, it looks like this. So that is as simple as it gets. That's an A5 power chord. And I like to call this power chord the classic rock chord. And the reason is because so many classic rock songs start with the A5. Little Uncle Ted there. But there are so many. I won't even get into all of them. We'll save that for another video. But that's how you play the A5. Let's look at the next one. All right, the next one is what we call D5, and this is a very crisp, clear sounding chord. You might have recognized that riff, Shot Down in Flames by AC/DC. Starts out with a D5 power chord, another very, very popular chord in rock. It looks like this. You can play it with just one finger again, your index finger on fret number 2 of the G string, and then you play the open D string with it. All right, and then if you want to add that extra D note in there, it's right here on fret number 3 of your B string. Play all 3 strings together. It looks like this and sounds like this. That's a D5. Now at the beginning of that riff you heard me playing, I was hammering on with my index finger to this A note on the G string. So it sounded like... There's so many rock songs that are built around a D5 power chord, like this Skynyrd song. And I like to call this power chord the bright punch chord. But let's go to the next one. I like to call the next one the meat and potatoes chord, and I'll show you why. All right, did you recognize that last chord? That is what we call a G5. And there's different ways to play it. And if you stick around to the end of the video, it's going to open up a whole new realm for you of playing power chords up and down the fretboard. So stick around. But first, here's the easy way to play a G5 that has a lot of power to it. And you hear this chord in AC/DC songs and lots of other rock songs. I was just playing Problem Child. I was doing that with a D5 to an A5 and using a G5. I'll just show you that again. D5, A5, D5 to G5. The G5 looks like this, and it sounds the best if you cover the first string and the second string, the E and the B, with one finger and play those 3 strings, E, B, and G. All right, and like I said, there's so many other ways we can play this. We can add even more power to it by adding another finger, and I'll show you what I mean. So we've got the G5. Now what if we put our middle finger down here on the 6th string of the 3rd fret, which is a G note. So we're adding another G in there. It's got a lot more power to it. The only trick is you've got to muffle your A string if you're going to play this full G5. It looks like this, but man, is it a powerful chord to use. In fact, I use the G5 a lot of times instead of a G major typical cowboy chord because the G5 just adds more power. That's why I call it the meat and potatoes chord. You can usually find this chord in the middle or at the beginning or at the end. Somewhere in a rock song, you're going to find a G5 a lot of times. All right, now I told you I was going to show you some other ways to play power chords, and that's going to take us into the next chord. But before we go there, what if we wanted to play a G5 down low like the E5? Make it really kind of growl? Well, how about this version of a G5? All right, this chord is used in a lot of songs, and you want to learn this chord shape. This is also called a G5. It looks like this. And the reason we call it a G5 is because we're putting our index finger on the G note here, which is on the 3rd fret of our string number 6, the low E. And then we've got our 3rd finger up here on the D note, which is part of the chord, and that's on fret number 5 of the A string, and we're just playing those 2 strings with those 2 fingers. So that's the same as a G5 here, or here, but it's down low here. And you'll see that used in so many rock songs, and I'm going to give you some examples here in a few. But that takes us into our next chord, and I like to call the next one the bridge, and that's B5. So all you've got to do is remember this chord shape I just showed you. This one right here, because we're going to move it around the fretboard. All right, did you know Iron Man starts out with a B5 power chord? Yeah, it does. And the cool thing is it's the same chord shape as the G5 I just showed you. That's our G5. That's our B5. And if you notice, I moved that B5 all the way up and down the fretboard. That's why I like to call it the bridge, because not only is a B5 used in a lot of blues chord progressions, but you can also move that chord shape up and down the fretboard. Let me demonstrate. So with Iron Man, we've got B5 here. We've got our index finger on the B note, which is on fret number 2 of the A string. And then we've got our 3rd finger here on the F sharp note, which is the 4th fret of the D string. And we play those 2 strings with just these 2 fingers. And it sounds like that. You hear that in so many rock songs. Now the way Iron Man starts out, it starts out with B5. We're going to slide up here to fret number 5 with that same chord shape. Now we've got a D5. And how do I know that's a D5? Because this is my D note. I've got A, B, C, D. And then I've got my same chord shape as I had down here for the B5. This is a D5, same as this D5, but now we're playing it here. Isn't that cool? So we've got Iron Man, B5, D5. Now we're going to slide up to, yeah, you guessed it, this would be an E5. So it's B5, D5. Now we're on an E5. And the cool thing about the E5 here, with this chord shape, I can play the low E string with these other 2 strings. See how much power you got there? Pretty cool, huh? So back to Iron Man, B5, D5, and then go a whole step up here to the E5. Now here's the tricky part though, but we can keep the same chord shape. We're going to slide all the way up here to fret number 10. So we're going back and forth like this from fret 10 to 9, 10 to 9. And then we come back down to the D5 and back up to the E5. Now I don't expect you to learn this right away if you're brand new at guitar, but this is something you want to remember, that chord shape. Start with your B5. Pretty cool. And guess what? You can use the same chord shape on the E string as well. You can start down here with E5, F5, slide up a whole step to G5, another whole step is A5, another whole step is B5, and then C5 is a half step because E to F and B to C is always a half step on the guitar, 1 fret. So we go from B to C here, B, C, D5 way up here on fret number 10 using the E string as our root note, and then we come back to E. See how those sound the same? All right. Power chords are a lot of fun, and I hope you got a lot from this lesson today. Now remember to take it easy on your fingers. Make sure you stretch them out, especially if you have arthritis or any finger issues. Make sure you see your doctor. Don't hurt yourself, okay? But power chords are a great way to make all the chords you can possibly think of on the fretboard with only 1 to 2 fingers and 2 to 3 strings. Pretty cool, huh? All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this one, you'll probably like this one here or this playlist down here, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay tuned for more.